A lot of men tell me that they want to show a woman they're interested, but they don't want to come off too strong. They don't want to do anything that's going to creep her out. And the problem is, most men that are asking these questions are generally not forward enough. A woman on a date knows why you're there. She knows that you might be interested in her. So the problem is not flirting in general. It is flirting too much without leaving space for breathing room, without leaving space for some restraint, where if you're just too heavy-handed, too early, and too often, that's where it gets too forward or too intense for a woman. And this is where the art of sexual tension comes into play, where you're just forward enough to show interest and arouse somebody, but not so forward that they're feeling overwhelmed and want to escape from the situation. So before I give you the 8 ways to create more sexual tension with women, I want to explain what sexual tension is, because a lot of men don't really understand it. They've heard that term before. They're like, create sexual tension with women. In simplest terms, I think of sexual tension as the moment where two people are starting to signal their interest. They're flirting, that's signaling interest, but they're doing it in a way that shows that it's going to happen and has a little bit of anticipation. So if I was to look at a woman on a date right before I'm about to kiss her, and I'm looking at her deep in her eyes, she knows, oh God, this person's about to kiss me. And there's those feelings of anticipation and excitement. When we don't know what's coming, it really stirs up a lot of emotion. And then once you have that real big payoff, it's so much more strong because you built up all that anticipatory feeling. Now, I really want to explain why this is so important. Now, besides what I've already said, which is around the anticipation of things and that suspense that humans love, it's also to show a woman that you're not so desperate to get laid or make something happen. Like, you want it and you're willing to go after it and show it, but it's not the only thing on your mind. You can have breathing room, you can have chill conversation, and you mix it in naturally. It's like a dance. You're not like the whole time flirting, but you're also not avoiding flirting. You have that nice kind of courtship going where it feels paced, she's getting aroused, but it's not like, okay, the only thing this guy wants is sex. He's willing to engage with me, build rapport, get to know me, and so forth. The other reason why it's so important is when you push too much too soon, then a woman can feel cheap. If things are escalating so quickly on a first date, even if it doesn't actually have to be cheap or easy, women have been told for a long time from their parents, their peers, society, that being too forward with a man too soon makes them easy. Showing too much interest and sleeping with somebody early on makes them cheap or less valuable. And so when you're creating that natural flow where you guys are exploring each other, but you're peeling back and having some breathing room, she doesn't feel so bad that all that's been happening is you two being really sexual really soon. It feels like it's a natural progression of your connection as a whole. Oh my God, we're liking each other, we're really getting to know each other, and now we're having moments where we're hot. That feels healthy as opposed to, I'm just being really fast with this dude, we just got on a first date, we're already kissing, we're already hooking up. Sometimes that can conjure up a lot of feelings of shame, and you never want that to be the case. You never want to hit a point where a woman's like, oh my God, do I feel bad about doing this? Is he going to judge me? Did I make a mistake? Once you hit that point, you've already lost. So now let's talk about the 8 ways that I think create sexual tension in a natural way. And all of them, if you notice, are going to revolve around nonverbal communication, because I think that's where it's the strongest. What's unsaid is the most sexy and exciting, right? We don't exactly know what's going on. We're trying to read signals, and that helps build that anticipation. So number 1 is you want to create physical closeness, because once we start to get closer to somebody, we actually feel a lot of emotion around that, right? We're close to the people that we love the most in our lives. And when somebody gets into our personal space and we enjoy it, we also get stirred up feelings of like friendship or appreciation or arousal. And especially with a new man, a woman is going to start to find herself enticed or excited when you guys are getting close and a little bit more personal. What you want to do is when you meet somebody at an event or some kind of party, you might start talking across from each other at first, but then pretty soon you want to move to a 45. If you're on a date, you want to choose locations that have seating that might be more easy for you guys to sit next to each other, like a booth or bar countertops or a couch. And in general, I want to try to get closer on a date, and that creates natural tension. If we sit on the grass next to each other and we're kind of talking and our legs are really close and our bodies are close, we can feel that energy. We can feel like, ooh, are we going to start to get physical? Is it going to get to a kiss? And again, you're building that little bit of tension that feels really natural. Number 2 is to touch a little bit longer when you are creating physical contact. So initially on a date, you might just be touching very briefly for a hug or putting a quick hand on a shoulder. But as you guys get to know each other, your touches might linger a little longer. You might leave your hand on the side of her body when she's opening up to you for a few extra seconds. You might sit closer and your legs just kind of rub up against each other or rest against each other, and you're not so quick to pull it away like early on after a few seconds, but maybe it lingers there for 5, 7, 10 seconds. As that touch hangs out there for a little while, it stirs up a lot of feelings. We start to feel that surge of energy and arousal. Imagine if a woman was on a date with you and she's laughing and she puts her hand on your chest and then she's looking at you and she lets her hand stay there for a little bit. And then she moves away and starts talking. You're like, whew, that was kind of hot. Like, all right, let's go. So just holding each other a little bit longer makes all the difference. Number 3 is the exact opposite of what you should do on YouTube, which is instead of talking really loud and fast, you should kind of lower your voice and slow down a little bit. Because the way that we talk and the way that we express ourselves through our vocal tonality says a whole lot. Even if you're saying the same words. So if you're on a date with a woman and you want to tell her how you like her openness and you think it's attractive, and you said it like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, I love how like non-judgmental you are and how easy it is to talk to you. I really think openness is attractive. And you say it kind of like playful and quick like that, it just doesn't have that much weight. It's kind of like friendly and like you'd say to, I don't know, just a random stranger, maybe not the attractive part. But the second you say it differently, where you have a little bit more sincerity, you say it, stronger and you lower your voice a little bit. And you say, I just had to tell you that I love how non-judgmental and chill you are. I think that openness is really attractive in someone. It creates a whole different feeling. Let me give you another quick example. Maybe you're on the phone call with a woman or you're on a Zoom call and you guys haven't been able to see each other again. You want to tell her that you really wish that you could be there right now, lying next to her. And again, you say it like, hey, I really would just wish I could be there right now, lying next to you. It'd be so awesome. Okay, it's fine. But if you like slow down and change the pitch of your voice and was like, I really wish I could just be there with you right now, just laying next to you. And just that little bit of graveliness and softness while still being strong can send chills down a woman's spine who's into you. Number 4 is to smile at her and hold your gaze a little bit longer. Just like touching her a little bit longer creates that closeness and that intimacy, so does prolonged eye contact. I'm not saying like you like stare at her on a date like this for 15 seconds, but when you're talking, things are heating up and you're getting close and you're listening to her and you just kind of look at her and you look deep into her eye. That intensity of desire where I'm really looking at you and maybe she's thinking, oh, is he thinking about kissing me? He's really checking me out. He's really looking at me. That starts to stir up those feelings of what's going to happen next. And that's where maybe you want to do number 5, which is where you want to imply that you are going to potentially kiss her. And so you're looking at her in the eyes and just for a second or two, you kind of glance down at her lips and glance back up. Okay, just very subtly. And what this starts to do is she notices your eyes are creating great eye contact, and then they go down to her lips, which naturally we do subconsciously when we're thinking about kissing somebody, and then you move back up to her eyes. She's getting these signals of like, okay, we've been holding great eye contact, and now he's kind of looking at my lips. Is he about to do it? Is he about to make the move? And that's exactly the feelings you want to stir up. And number 6 is when you do want to go for the kiss, take your time. I've talked about this in my kissing video where most guys, they like want to go for a kiss and they feel so nervous about it that they just rush. And you're eliminating all that beautiful buildup where she's like feeling that moment that she's been waiting for if you just like stop and go for a kiss within a second or two. And I get it. A lot of men do this because they're afraid that if they don't do it quickly, they're going to miss their chance. But it's actually the opposite. By slowing down and looking at a woman and you stop talking, and maybe you grab her hand and you gently move her into you closely, and then you lean in. All that time gives her an opportunity to see what's coming, which, means that if she's not ready, she can also turn away or rebuff that advance. But if she's excited and she wants to kiss you, then she's like, oh my God, it's happening. Oh my God, it's happening. And her heart rate's going crazy. And maybe she's got a little bit of even nervousness and excitement coursing through her veins. And that's where the kiss is going to pay off so much more when you finally consummate what you've both been waiting for. And that brings me to number 7, which is to pull away from kissing sometimes. Let's say you go back to a woman's place and you guys are making out. You actually want to stop making out at different points so that you leave that breathing room for that tension to build again. I see this happen too much where a guy's like making out with a woman, they're like, cool, we're making out, and they just keep doing that for 20 to 30 minutes, and eventually there's no breathing room, it's just full blast all the time, and a woman starts to get those feelings again of like, oh my God, is this too fast, or this is a lot of emotion to process at once, it's really strong, and she'll back out, and that kind of kills a lot of that mood. So I think like breaking the kiss for a few times while you guys are making it out and just going back to talking, and maybe she's resting on you and you're stroking her hair, you're touching different parts of her body, then that next time you go for a kiss is that much more exciting because she's like, oh my God, I miss the way that feels. Are we going to make out again? Like, oh, and she's kind of getting horny and turned on. And then boom, you kiss again and she gets that jolt of arousal and excitement. And then each subsequent time you kiss, it can be a little bit more passionate, a little bit longer, a little bit more intense, maybe a little bit more tongue, so that it's doing that like spike of great emotion, anticipation, spike of great emotion that's even stronger because it's more intimate, and then again anticipation until the point where she can't take it anymore and she's like, oh my God, we have to have sex, let's do this, I could rip this dude's clothes off. And that brings me to number 8. You don't also rush through the sex. You create a little bit of time to have foreplay. And I've said this before, but foreplay is more than just going down on somebody. It's all that touching, all that undressing, looking at each other, telling her to relax, kissing different parts of her body, putting her hands on you. And so every time that you guys are touching a little bit more, she's getting more turned on, she's feeling different sensations, and she can imagine how much greater it's going to get. And that's what gets her excited to, move forward and have sex. Because to be honest, most women need a lot more time being turned on before sex than men. They often want 15, 20, 25 minutes of that foreplay and that dance before they're really primed to go, both on a mental level, but also on a physiological level. Now, am I saying that you create sexual tension on a date and it's always going to end up in a woman being ready to have sex with you? Of course not. But this is the best chance where she feels your confidence, things are slowly moving forward, but in a consistent way, and she has that breathing room to feel anticipated, to build arousal, and if it's not going to happen that night, it still builds that anticipation for the next times to come without triggering the emotional defenses of, is this too forward? Is this guy only want to get laid? Am I being cheap? Instead, it's all fun, it's all excitement, and that's the space you want to create now to have powerful, intimate experiences later.